Hello, welcome back to Learn Oikonomia. Today we are going to discuss the connection between poverty traps and path of dependence of growth process. So let's analyze the same here. In the very beginning, we need to understand the situation of poverty. So what does it mean by poverty? When we say poverty, you're talking about the situation of insufficiency. So insufficiency is also not in this context of deprivation. So what is it all about? Deprivation, or what is it all about insufficiency? You're talking about lack of something. You lack something. And this something could be either some natural resource. Sometimes what happens is that it could be a financial resource. That is money. So, when you have poverty, you lack this. You lack this something. Now, what is it all about poverty trap? To know poverty traps, you need to understand that poverty is being caused due to various factors. So that there have been various factors leading to poverty, and these factors operate at various levels as well. Various levels. So these factors operating at various levels will contribute to poverty, and these factors will be acting and reacting upon each other. So they will be acting and reacting upon each other. So when they act and react upon each other, what happens is that these will be creating a reinforcing effect. A reinforcing effect is being created. So one factor leading to another factor. So this factor will lead to the next factor and so on. Such kind of working mechanism will happen here. So that is why we consider that it is a cycle. So this cycle with this acting and interacting and reacting with reinforcing effects like situation of factors will lead to a scenario of poverty trap. So that means once you fall into this trap, escaping will become something impossible or something very difficult. So let me give you one example here. Let's assume that your education is less. So you do have very less education. So once you have less education, what would be your possibility to get a job in job market? You will not be getting a good job, right? So you might be getting a very pity kind of job. Your job will be sometimes not secure. So it would be an unsecure job that you will be getting with less salary. Your salary would also be very less, or salary or wage. So in this scenario, what happens? Since you are less educated, your wage is also coming down with an unsecure job. So what will happen to your development? Your development possibilities too will be coming down. Isn't it? Now talk about your health. Just assume that you do have so much of diseases. In the presence of diseases, what about your capability to work for more hours? Definitely it would be coming down. Your working hours will be coming down, right? So when your working hours comes down, what will happen to your income? Definitely your income would also be coming down because you are working for only less hours. You will get income for only those time for which you are working, right? Now you work for less hours, so your income is also less. Now what about your development? Your development too will be less. So you are again in the clutches of something called lack or something called insufficiency. So it's like some cycle happening. Like it is your less education that is creating an unsecure job with less salary. That is what is leading to your less development. And less development will lead to less education again, because you do not have now possibility to go for more education, because you know that you need to work, adjust your work time and your education now won't be possible. So again, low education and so on. So your low development will sometimes make you to give less education to your children. Your children will also be getting less education. So what will happen? They getting less education means their job prosperity would also be less. Their job possibility would be just very less. They will get a very unsecure job. They won't be prospering with their job. Their development will also be coming down. So that might lead to less education for their children. So it will just act as a cycle. Okay. So it is very difficult to break out of this cycle. Now, it is such a cycle or such a problematic scenario, such a trap, which we call as poverty trap. This trap is actually making you to go for reliance. So you think that if you depend on somebody, you will be able to come out of the situation. So what you could do is that you might go for borrowing sometimes. Okay, you might ask some money from your friend to deal with your daily requirement. But everyday borrowing is not possible, because when you borrow money, you have to repay it, right? So what happens is that this borrowing will be having some short-term effect only. So it is just a short-term effect, because it's a short-term solution. Never consider it as a permanent solution. It's a short-term solution. So people have a tendency to depend on this short-term solution when they are in the clutches of poverty trap. They might not be addressed. This short-term solution will not actually create any avenues for people who are already there in the trap to come out of the situation, because we are not addressing the root causes of the problem. Instead, we are just dealing with the short-term aspects only. So this dependence upon external support will become more. You will be borrowing sometimes more to deal with your daily requirements. You hope that, or you think that when you go for more borrowing, you will be able to deal with your problems. But unfortunately, it will be leading to a big trap in the future. So what you have to have is something different from a short-term support. You do require something much more effective by focusing on to the long-term implications, isn't it? Now, I told you that when we talk about this poverty trap, it's a big, deep pit. And once you fall onto this pit, escaping from this pit is very, very important. And also there is a loop driving you down. And this loop will be driving you down. So this loop is created with certain forces acting and reacting upon each other to create a reinforcing effect to drive you down to the depth of the pit. So what is the meaning here? Here you have no progress. No progress, instead you go down and down. Now what to do? There should be something. Before that, let me tell you how this poverty trap works to form a vicious cycle. So the working mechanism also play a role here. The mechanism of working of poverty trap. The mechanism is that definitely certain forces, and these forces will be leading to certain other forces, and these forces will lead to another set of forces, another set of forces. These forces will come to, this will lead to the first type of forces. That will again lead to other forces, which will lead to another set of forces, like it will be acting as a cycle. So it's a circular movement. or circular path that we have. Now, what is the way out? So there should be something to escape from this path. So before that, let me give you some real life examples of how this is working. I'll give you examples by connecting it with the actual forces that works in reality. So it all start with your limited resources. So let's assume that you have less money, or the nation is having less money. Okay. So with less money, what will happen to investment in the economy? Investment will also be less, because with less money, more cannot be invested, right? So investment in human capital will be coming down. What does it mean by investment in human capital? Education will be less, then health will be less, prevalence of diseases would be more. Now what happens to opportunities? Opportunities for a job. Opportunities would also be less, because you are not educated, you are having a bad health. Now how will you be getting opportunities for work? Definitely it will be coming down. Now what happens? Now you go for borrowing, which you think as something of assistance. And again, we are talking about some short-term solution. This is a short-term solution. And when you talk about this short-term solution, you talk about dependent, right? You are depending on somebody. Some borrower and lender relation happens. So you borrow means there is a lender. You have some dependable relation with your lender, and this poverty is creating a path of dependence. Now what happens? Today you borrowed, tomorrow you need to repay this money, right? And what about tomorrow? Tomorrow also you are having less money. So investment is coming down. Investment in education. I mean, today you did have less money, and that was why you were not educated. Now your opportunities came down. Now you borrowed. But when it comes to tomorrow, you might be spending the entire money. Today means you are not having money for tomorrow. Tomorrow also you are having less money. Your health is very bad. Your opportunity is less. Again borrowing. Again borrowing means you need to repay this money. Tomorrow again you have less money. So this will be acting as a cycle where escaping would become very difficult. Okay. So either borrowing or some aids received from somewhere all can be considered, but all this would be having some short-term implications. Now, how to break out from this trap? How can you able to break this particular trap? So here you need to understand that it's very, very important to consider the meaning of sustainability here. So what does it mean by sustainability? Here you need to talk about your development. Along with that, you need to talk about the development of the future as well, future generation. So very, very important in this context to invest on education, to invest on healthcare. So that what happens, you will be getting a better job. Your job possibility and prosperity from job will also be increasing, and that will lead to more income and more development. Definitely some microfinance can be considered here. So what does it mean by microfinance? Microfinance is some finance with some small amount. I'm not talking about the role of microfinance that would be helping you every time. So with this microfinance, you need to go for something called investment. You need to go for investment. Never ensure that you are using this money for your daily requirements. It's not so. Instead, you are investing it. For example, you are starting a production unit. Okay. So tomorrow what happens? You might be profiting from this production unit. You might get some profit. And with this profit, you might be expanding your production. So development will be happening. That is yet another way. Now, there can be infrastructural development like roads, like hospitals. Then you can have schools. Then you can have bridges. So whether it is for travel, whether it is for proper health, whether it is for education, some or the other infrastructural development will lead to more development with long run implications. Some safety nets can be there. So what can this be? The government can go for some policies for enabling people to have some money. For example, some subsidy. So this subsidy will be equipping people to have more money with them, and this will help them to have more demand and spending. Then we can go for empowering certain communities. So empowering communities like certain caste, certain gender, and so on. This will also be equipping them through reservations and all. This will equip them, which too will be having some long-term effects, making them to come out of poverty trap. And also, like what I was trying to tell you, government plays a very important role. Even land reform can make things better. So this will help in land distribution. The redistribution of land will ensure that even this landless people are getting it. So that is one way out of the situation with some long run effect. Then now labor market regulations. This will create incentive for people to work in labor market. It will be encouraging people or encourage laborers to work in the labor market because they think that their rights are protected now. So more laborers will be participating in labor market. Then anti-discrimination law. So this will ensure what is for equality. This will also ensure that no particular section is having a problem in the economy just because he or a person is born in that particular section. So that is yet another way to rescue somebody from poverty trap. So what we could find here is that when we discuss poverty trap, it's a complex scenario where we do have several forces acting and reacting upon each other. It's some reinforcing effect to have a person trapped in the clutches of poverty forever. But now when we go for this targeted interventions, definitely this targeted intervention can have some long-term effects. And this policy with long-term effects will be the only way out of poverty trap to do away from path of dependence. So short-term path of dependence won't be of any assistance. We instead should have some long-term solutions to the problem of poverty trap. That is it regarding the idea of poverty trap and its connection with the path of dependence when it comes to growth process. Hope you could understand. And if you are looking for previous year question papers and answers in economics, free study materials, live and recorded classes, free MCQ based weekly tests, it's a better platform for you to consider Learn Oikonomia app. I'll be providing the link in the description box. And you can also join our free Telegram community, for which also I'll be providing the link in the description box. You can like, share and subscribe to this channel for more videos. Thank you.